Thanks for watching Ben Television. The program is Dialogue. And on Dialogue today, we have one of the greatest of London. He's a conservative London politician. He's been around for a while. He's done the best job you can do in London. That is working with the youth. I'm talking of no other person but our own Shuan Bailey. Mr. Bailey, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Good to have you.
Thank you.
You're looking younger than your age, you know. I would have thought you look older, but we won't leave that. We won't let that secret out. Just tell us a little bit about yourself so that our viewers may know you.
I'm a Londoner, born and bred. I've been here my whole life. My parents are Jamaican. I'm of Jamaican descent. Professionally, I started as a youth worker, so I worked for the council, I worked for some other charities. Eventually I set up my own called My Generation. I also used to run a thing called a Pepper Pot, which looked after Africa and Caribbean elders who many were very vulnerable. Okay. I sat as the chair of the trustees and did that for a while. I studied in London as well. I went to school here, I went to university here, I went to South Bank.
What did you read?
So I read computer-aided engineering.
Oh, okay.
Way back when. Really great experience. Like I say, I'm South Bank alumni. That's where I come from. Okay. I moved into politics as a result of I'd done lots of community organising, helping people to get jobs, helping people to, you know, with their residents association, whatever. And I wrote something for one of the big think tanks called the Centre for Policy Studies. Okay. They and others encouraged me to get involved in politics. At the time, David Cameron was trying to be the leader of the Conservative Party. So I thought I'd help out.
Yeah, why not?
I stood for Hammersmith in 2010. I didn't win. But when I didn't win, David Cameron became Prime Minister and he asked me to become a special advisor. All
right, so you'll be a special advisor to David Cameron and some other people?
To David Cameron, also to Michael Gove in the Education Department, which was...
Probably you might know the Prime Minister very soon.
Well, I also used to work for Boris when he was in City Hall as well. I did some stuff
either way.
Policing. so let's see, Michael, Boris, there's a good few in the race, and I'm quite excited about the broad spread of candidates the party has to choose from. So it'll be interesting to see who wins.
And you went to contest for the GLA place in 2016.
So in 2016, I was on a list. I became a GLA member for the Conservative Party. Yeah. I sit on several committees, including the Economics Committee. I used to sit on the Regeneration Committee. I'm on Transport as well, which is the one with the biggest budget.
The viewers will be yearning to hear from you. How did the Conservative Party choose you to be the candidate, mayoral candidate for 2020? What processes did you have to go through?
I think that the big story behind it was the Conservative Party in London is modernising. It's made up of Londoners who wanted someone who looked and sounded like them. And the obvious thing is, obviously, I'm a black man, and that wasn't their real issue. Their issue was because I've lived the lives that Londoners live. Yeah. I've had the challenges. I've been unemployed. I'm sofa served. I've paid big rent. I've done all these things. Yes, for a while. I signed on everything. I did all these things, and I think that was important. The process was very long, and what was good about the process is that it was the members who chose me. They made a decision. We had a widespread. We had myself, Andrew Buff, and Joy Morrissey, and it gave us a widespread. And I was the eventual winner. And
now you know who you're going to meet. Mm-hmm. You know who you are going to meet. You're going to meet Sadiq Khan, who incidentally is of the same age with you, and was the other day having an altercation with Donald Trump.
Yes.
So in case you win the race, how are you going to relate with Donald Trump?
I think the mistake that Mr. Khan made was he attacked Donald Trump. And he knew if he attacked Donald Trump, we all know Donald Trump. He's going to come back. And Sadiq did it so he could say, look at me, I've taken on Donald Trump. But actually, what he has to look at, he attacked America. Because for America, that's their
icon.
Yeah, he's the leader of state. He's legally elected. And in this time of Brexit and the New World, we have to go back to these people to make a deal. And if they feel like we've disrespected them, it might make it a bit harder. And I think it's not right to play politics with our future. Yeah. You can't grow your own future at the expense of 9 million people. So I would deal with it slightly different. I would deal with him as the president of the United States. You don't have to like him, but you do have to respect him because he represents America, some 320 million
Shuan,
people.
I'm going to tell you straight. I love London. I mean, I love London. And London is loved by all over the world. I've traveled all over. I've been to the US and they say, where are you from? I said, from London. Oh, he's from London. He's from... Now, what's your opinion of London before we go into how you are going to run this city? How did you carry London?
So for me, London is home. I absolutely love London. Like I said, I was born here, I've grown here. My wife, my children are here, my mother's here. What can I say? And I've always liked London because it gave me opportunities. It gave me a chance. I went to school here. My first job was here. I'm currently sitting on the London Assembly. So I've always tried to serve London because I feel like London has served me. And I want to be involved from that point of view. And when you come from the community I come from, it's just a working class community full of black people, English, Moroccans. I grew up in a big Muslim community with a lot of Moroccans, a lot of Roman Catholic boys that I used to move around with as well. I've always wanted to do the best for them because although we came from very diverse background, we all had the same problem.
Okay.
Paul.
In a moment, we're going to get to the nitty-gritty, the real things Londoners will be asking you. I will try. And if you are watching us right now, you want to ask Shuan Bailey any question concerning what he's going to do for London if he should become the mayor next year, please feel free. The number will be on your screen, and you can always ask your questions directly. This is Dialogue. Now, Mr. Bailey, what's your priority for London if you become the next mayor?
There's two things I concentrate on. First is crime. London is far too dangerous. And the idea that we can wait 10 years, the current mayor said it takes 10 years to put it right, I don't agree with. Our children are literally dying in the streets. We must put that straight first. There's two ends to that, isn't there? One is the policing situation. We must have a zero tolerance approach to crime. I've been through the City Hall budget. I found £83 million extra we could be using on policing right here, right now. No,
Khan said he doesn't have such money.
He has the money. Let's be clear. City Hall's budget is £18 billion a year.
Wow.
And that's not included an extra 4.82 billion we were given for housing. The money is there. We spent £3 billion on policing. We can do more. And let's be clear, that is not going to solve crime, but it will help control it, stop it, so that our children...
Are you supporting Stop and Search?
Absolutely, because we do not want our children to grow up in a crime-riddled environment. And I've met lots of people, unfortunately, who've lost their children, and they're saying we need to make an intervention. That's only one. Let's not completely focus on Stop and Search. It's not the only thing.
Yeah, okay.
But at the other end of the programme as well, London is a growing, thriving place. But we need to make sure our children are supported educationally so they can get the right jobs. We're about to get the adult education budget, £190 million. I want to focus that on vocational, practical things that mean our children can get access to the success of London, all the big jobs, all the construction jobs, all the rest of that. And there's also some work we need to do around apprenticeship levy.
Okay.
The way it's spent now is not the best. We could do much more with, which is quite a large sum of money. We could do more with that. That's what we want to do. And another personal thing for me, I want to celebrate education in London more.
I was about to say that one. What are your plans for inner education, inner city education, where these primary and secondary school students, they give us a little problems these days?
So the mayor has very little control over education, very few levers he can pull. Okay. But one of the things we can do is to support and celebrate education more. Many of our poor communities, there's a number of children who are not educated. They're not hungry for the education. Help them to be hungry. Show them that that's how they get here. One of the personal reasons rather, that I'm involved in public life and I'm running for Mayor of London is to demonstrate to poor communities all across London, it doesn't matter where you started, it's where you finish. And I come from a poor single parent family. Like I say, I've been unemployed, but I came from a strong community and I want to give that over so young people get involved in education and that they can go through it, education, job, family.
Still on that, what did you learn when you were a youth worker? What did you learn from the communities that you helped? I mean, this was the way Obama went before he became the president of the US. So what were the fundamental things that you saw in the communities that you worked with?
I'll start by saying the first thing I learned is not always to treat struggling, tough, poor communities as victims.
Okay.
That isn't the way. That we are the children of immigrants, and immigrants are entrepreneurial. They come to succeed. They don't want you pitying them and always saying that you must do for them. What they want is an opportunity, and I'm big on providing opportunity, be it education, employment, or anything else. The other thing I learned from communities as well is to listen and respect them. You've got to say to communities, what can I do for you? What do you need to do? But you've also got to be realistic to them. Okay. The worst thing that politicians do is lie. They say things that people want to hear, but they know they're never going to deliver. I'm very, very, very busy making sure that I only tell what I can actually deliver.
Okay. One of the things that London is endowed with is network of transportation. And many people, they complain a lot about transport at the moment. Tell our viewers the challenges of TFL and how you intend to move in. To what extent does the power of the city permit you, and how you're going to resolve some of these issues?
So TFL, Transport for London, is different to education. It's the opposite. We have a lot of power over it because we control it. The mayor is the chairman, as it were. Unfortunately, the current financial situation of TFL is terrible, and it's been running to the ground. When the mayor became the mayor, he knew the situation and he made decisions that made it worse. We now run at a £500 million deficit. So every year, TFL is £500 million short. That's a big challenge. And why that's important, if you're watching this programme, for me, it's an effect on housing. Housing is probably our number one need in London. But without the money to invest in the transport infrastructure, we can't open up new parcels of land for housing because we can't get people to and from them easily. So that's the big loss. What we need to do TFL is A, control how much it spends, B, make sure it gets more money out of the land that it owns. TFL owns a lot of land. A lot of that is being given over to housing, which is correct, but it could be done in a better way to make sure that Londoners benefit more. So we'll be doing that as well. And of course, at some point, we'll ask the government for some input.
So some people said some transporters, they no longer vie to operate on London lines. Is it true? That is, you find it difficult to say, come and take, we want you to...
Oh, no, that's not true. The London franchises are very, very lucrative. They're worth a lot of money. And we should be using that to get more service out of these people. If you live south of the river, the service is really bad. And I would be bringing those companies in and I would be saying to them, I'm going to lobby the government to take control of the franchise. I don't want to deliver the franchise of TFL. I want to be in charge of the franchise. And if you do not perform, I will make sure you never win this franchise again, because you've demonstrated that you're not good enough to do that. And in the meantime, you have to demonstrate to me on a monthly basis what changes you are going to make this service better for people, particularly south of the river. South of the river is where the transport link is the worst.
Is there a way you can peg the price? The annual price appears to be surging. How do we keep the price reasonably low for everybody to partake?
Here's the difference I'd mark between me and what's going on now. There is going to be a price rise. My idea would be to keep it as low as possible. What the current regime is doing is making sure that price rises after the election. If anybody doubts me, all they need to do is...
Sadiq is going to say, no, he's screaming on his chair now.
And, well, if anybody doubts me, just look at TFL's business plan. It indicates there'll be a price rise in 2020. The reason we've done that, the reason you have inner London, you have the expansion of the ULEZ, you have this price rise, is because TFL's finances are in trouble and the mayor wants to raise more money for them. But the thing is, he was the one who put them in trouble. Wow. I would always seek to push down them. We have to be realistic. There will be a small rise even if I was mayor, because we want to have the money to invest. People south of the river deserve transport. There's been 18 transport programs that have been cancelled or postponed. Wow. We need to put some of those back. Expansion of the DLR, extension of the Bakerloo line, the tram up in Croydon, they want an extension as well. All of these things will be vital for London, but we cannot do that under the current regime because of the way the money's been spent.
Now, we just at this moment must move to some core questions affecting the nation and, of course, affecting London. And you know what I'm about to say, Brexit. I know 60% of us in London voted to remain, and the rest of the United Kingdom had 15 million people who said, we must check out of the European Union, and you know the problems we've had in the last 3 years, and you are a member of the Conservative Party, and Conservative Party is being pulled apart, and we are all in this situation. I don't want to use any adjective to qualify it. So how prepared do you think Londoners are for eventual Brexit if it happens at the 1st of October?
I'd say this about Brexit. I think many people on the London scene, the political scene, on both sides of the political divide, should be ashamed of themselves. They've used Brexit as a way to wedge communities apart. To be clear, I will be using Brexit as a way to bring us back together. London faced challenges across the centuries and we've defeated them all. Brexit is just something else we need to defeat. We must come back together. If you voted to stay or remain, remain or leave is irrelevant. What it is, you're still a Londoner. You still want and need London to work, and I am the man to help that happen. When I speak to the big businesses in London, they say they're already prepared for Brexit. They're clear, they would like a deal. They would like a deal. But if
I was about to jump on that.
But if there's no deal, they're still prepared to deal with that. And most of the big businesses I speak to say the biggest challenges facing them are not Brexit. They'll talk about how expensive it is to rent or buy in London. Their staff want big pay packets, not because they're greedy, but because living costs are so high. So they'll say to me, Shuan, what are you going to do about housing? They'll say, what are you going to do about transport? And then what they want after that as well is a mayor who will bang the drum for London. London is the best place in the world to start and grow a business, and we must remind the rest of the world of that every day.
What kind of deal will you be praying for that we get for if we should exit EU come October? What kind of deal? I mean, the businessmen, what kind of deal? Because I was listening to all the contestants of Premiership, and they were saying, make sure no customs, no this, no fishermen, no. And then I was thinking, then what's the problem? I mean, what are the things the businessmen in London are saying? What the kind of deal they want to see in place?
I think,
if there is no deal, how prepared are we?
I would say this. I think if you speak to business, they would say, in London, they would say they want a deal that protects services. They want a deal that protects services. The vast bulk of our business in London is services, banking, insurance, legal services, fintech companies, those kind of things. They will want something that protects services, not just manufacturing. They will want to know what the passporting rights are. That's a technical term around banking and insurance. What are the passporting terms? But I think they'll want to know what is coming next. What they want is stability. They just want to know what terms will they be trading under. That's what they're really after, and that's why they want to deal. If someone says, are we prepared? I would say, almost. We're doing the work. Central government's been doing the work, so has City Hall. We're doing the work. But I'd also say this. My experience of life has shown me that the money men will let nothing stop them making money.
I know.
The idea that all of a sudden we won't be able to, buy food, the food will go from the supermarkets, you won't be able to put it in your car, I don't hold it. I think that's people trying to scare you. Yes. Will it be some disruption? Of course. I'm not childish about this, but I don't think the world will end if we leave. I'm
just thinking, will there be some repercussions from Paris, from Bern, from Brussels? I mean, these are European cities. What are we doing to accommodate all the other European nationals living in London, that there will be no repercussions to British living in all these European cities?
There's just two things. I was at a breakfast with some Italian businessmen the other day, and I went to Poland and spoke about the Polish community in London.
Okay.
What people are most concerned about is, are they still welcome in London? I would say, of course they are. And if I was there, Mayor, I'd make a point of making sure that they feel welcome. Nearly 40% of Londoners were born outside of London, outside the country. So you can tell straight away, we certainly are. There's a group of people, a very large group, that are welcoming to outsiders. And I'll keep that going. You hear me champion that. The Prime Minister herself, many months ago now, gave a reassurance about people's leave to remain, etc., etc. So I think it's there. So when you hear people talking about people are not welcome, they feel unwelcome, some of that is being whipped up because it suits people. There is elements there, let's not deny it, but I think people are making that situation worse than it really is. If you talk about the repercussions from other cities, they're already there. London is in a very competitive space. You ask any city in the world, Forget Europe, in the world, would they trade places with London? They'd say yes immediately.
Yeah.
So that competition is always there, Brexit or no Brexit. And we must do everything we can to make sure that London is a place where wealth is readily and easily created, because that's what pays for the social programs that we also like.
I listen to many of those who have my color, either the Africans or Afro-Caribbeans, and it's like there are two divisions. One group says Brexit is good for us, we'll get the good jobs when others have left. Some say this may be a real problem because they may descend on us. Is there a way you can allay the fears of Africans and Afro-Caribbeans living in London that there's not going to be any particular repercussion for them? Some say yes, it's good. Some say it's very bad. I really don't know where I am.
All I can say, if I was the mayor, there'd be no negative repercussions for any community, Afro-Caribbean, Spanish, Mongolian, whoever, Iberian, no negative connotations. What I will say is the real opportunity for our children is the growth in London, and that's why here we talk about a few things in particular. One is our families. The whole point of London is home. It's where we keep our families, where we keep them safe. That's why here we talk about crime. It's a social mobility issue. We must have communities where our children don't grow up in crime, so they can avoid it. So you hear me talk about celebrating education and pushing education. You hear me talk about practical things when we talk about the apprenticeship levy, when we talk about the adult education budget. That's where the opportunity is for our children, to give them the best education, the best family support, so they can go on and get involved in these high-paying, long-term jobs. Yeah. That's the first thing. I've spoken to lots of people. Of course, I'm from the Afro-Caribbean community, and there's a feeling that a change in the rules, a change in a circumstance means that Commonwealth countries will become a bigger conversation in Britain. And I hope that's true. I hope that Commonwealth countries become a much more prominent part of the economic and the political discussion, because we are a significant proportion of the world and we have so much to offer. Our homelands where our parents and grandparents came from have so much to offer this country and indeed the world, and London wants to be right at the epicenter, the middle of that conversation.
Yeah, if you're just joining us, I've been having a dialogue with the London mayoral candidate of the Conservative Party, Shuan Bailey. You are free to call in. The number will be put on your screen right now. Feel free to call in and ask him questions, serious questions. If he should become the next London mayor, what are the things you want from him? Which means Sadiq Khan will have to leave that place. Shuan, I want to ask you, there are not many of us in politics. I mean, descendants of Afro-Caribbean parents and African. What has motivated you? How can you encourage others of alike to join politics, of any political party, any spectrum of the, any part of the spectrum they want to join, left or right? You know, what are the things that motivated you, and are you lonely in the space there?
Am I lonely? Yes. yes, I'm lonely, and I could do more of my brothers of every shade, because I think the broader the church in politics, the better the conversation we have. If you come from an African or Afro-Caribbean background, I feel like we have a sometimes different way of looking at things, sometimes a bit more positive way, which will add to the conversation, will give it a greater granularity. So I think, yes, we should get involved. I personally got involved just because of that. I wanted to act as a vanguard to my people, as it were. Yeah. And I wanted to say to people, if I can do it, of course you can do it. And
what do you think scares us? We're too fast, we're too quick to get a council job, to work at the lower level of life. Why can't we just... What is holding us down?
Well, it's not all bad, because some of it is, you know, you get some very highly qualified, highly motivated young black people, and they realise politics is not a way to make money. So they go elsewhere. They become a doctor, they become a lawyer. Yeah. I met a young black man the other day, really sharp, and I started to say to him, have you ever thought about politics? He said, oh, no, I'm in banking. Politics is great fun, but it's very low income. And I thought, fair enough, because part of our community's journey is actually outside of politics. I'm a church goer. Everybody knows I go to church. Lots of people in our community go to church. That is politics. You in your church, in your gurdwara, in your mosque, in your temple, you do the same thing that politics tries to do, but more effectively. You work with your local people, you feed hungry people, you house people, you give people a place to bring their children and be safe, as well as all the spiritual benefits as well. That goes on. So in one sense, our community is very political because we do a lot. Black people are the most likely to volunteer, for instance. That's a statistical fact. So we do politics. When you talk about party politics, I think sometimes, and particularly for me, I'm beyond the party politics. You know, Labour, Conservative, arguing about this, that doesn't interest me. What interests me is people. Yeah. So I think sometimes a lot of African people and Caribbean people don't get involved in politics because they don't want to have the fight. They just want to get the result. And that's what I think where we're coming from. And real political power comes from voting. How
much does an MP earn right now as an MP? How much do you know?
An MP earns more than I do. I know that much. I think they earn £70,000.
Yeah, it used to be 74.
I think it's the same. But the point is this: if our community wants political power, register to vote. Okay. We sit at home. We complain a lot. We say we don't do politics, but when you sit on a bus next to someone, they have a lot to say. Make our voice be heard. Make our voice be heard. When you go to church or you go to work, ask anybody when's the last time they voted. Ask them if they even registered to vote. You know, I don't want to make this about party politics or about me. But imagine you wanted to support me. Are you registered to vote? That's the first step. That's the first step because it gives us real power. If our voice is not heard, we are taken for granted. Make sure our voice is heard.
Are you a friend of David Lammy?
Yes, I speak a lot with David Lammy. I saw him about 2 or 3 days ago in the tube station.
Because David Lammy speaks, is eloquent just like you, and it's like you've gone to the same political school. I'm asking because he's trying to galvanize people in Tottenham, make sure you get involved in politics. But I think I now get the missing link why most Africans and Afro-Caribbeans are not particularly enthusiastic because there's no money there. You don't.
Yeah. And the job when you immigrate, you're trying to make solid, secure future for your family. This makes perfect sense. Politics is not solid and secure. And you know, with my own children, if they wanted to get in politics, yes, I've been involved, so I understand some of the mechanisms. But I would understand if they chose something else.
But it takes a lot to rise, especially where you are now as a member of the GLA, as a mayoral candidate. It takes a lot of effort to rise up to that level. You join at the lowest level, you become a member of a party at the lowest level, and then you operate, and you are not paid for anything, and you go to protest meetings and you take pictures with prime ministers if they come to your place. It takes a load of effort, and yet you are not known, you are not yet a candidate of any sort.
You're completely right, but I'd say this, it's why you join. So I never joined to be the candidate for Mayor of London, never crossed my mind. I joined because I was passionate about an issue. I was passionate about my local people. Excuse me. So for me, I was having success a long time before I got here. This is the hassle to success ratio is very low here. At the beginning, there was a little hassle, but a lot of success because I was able to make change with people locally. That's why people get involved. I met a young lady who likes to write, very, very academic. Right. So I said to her, you should join one of the think tanks. Because you can exercise your political understanding and grow your connections in that arena, and you never know, you might move into politics. So you could do that. And I'd always say this to people, become a local councillor.
Yeah.
There's many more local councillors, so you stand a better chance, and they do real important things that affect your life on a day-to-day basis.
So the first thing is to like the people, you know, and like to work for the people.
That's right.
That makes sense. Now, let me take you back to London because Boris Johnson once said that he will build another airport on water, and they spent £50 million trying to prove that one. What's your take on is it the 5th runway or the 3rd runway at the Heathrow? I mean, what's your take on this?
I mean, my take on it, I'll take you back to 2008, I believe it was. 2008. I ran in Hammersmith, and I was very new, and we met the CEO of Heathrow Airport, and he was explaining about the 3rd runway. And I was with an MP called Greg Hands, very experienced, very good man. And I said to him, Greg, does it sound like that man is asking us to give him £10 billion for his business? And he said, yes, Sean. And that was it. I've been anti-Heathrow ever since. Heathrow's on the wrong side of London, terrific environmental damage, and the noise pollution is incredible.
Yeah.
And there's nothing in their current plan that suggests to me that it will be any more viable. So I don't think we need a third runway. And I'll say this as well. When they built the new terminal, they said, we're going to build a terminal, you'll never hear from us again, finished, that's it. They built the terminal.
That's Terminal 5.
Yes. And then what happened? They've come back for a runway. I think enough is enough now. Enough is enough. We do not need a bigger Heathrow. I don't think it will give us the massive economic uplift they're talking about.
But that's what they said in 10 years' time. They said it will be a third world country.
I simply don't. I simply don't believe that. I have not been convinced that a third runway at Heathrow is a good idea. I really don't think it is.
Then what alternative do you have?
We don't need one at this point, except for a few things. Gatwick would be a cheaper alternative, an alternative that is not universally wanted, but many more people in that part of the country want the airport than do up here. It'll be cheaper for us as well, and I think that has to be taken into account. We have a London that is financially, when you come to infrastructure, under stress. I don't think we should be spending money on that.
But how did your principal, Boris, arrive at this runway on water? I know you are not Boris.
To be clear,
Yeah.
Boris is not my principal, at least not yet. He's got a long way to go before that happens.
Okay.
I think the reason why that runway makes sense, because it's on the correct side of the country. It means the aeroplanes would fly in over water, not over a populated part of the world. They would land, and then we'll deal with them from there. We could build a transport link, I suppose the story goes. It makes sense from that point of view. Yes, it would be expensive, but the thing it has on its side, if you rebuilt in that part of the country, you might then be able to change Heathrow into a village. Who knows? I don't want to start that conversation. I don't want people to think that's what I'm proposing. I'm not. I'm just telling you that was the rationale for what they did then.
At this moment, Sadiq Khan is running into a problem. He's about to spend £300,000 for a splash party. I'm sure you know about it. And he said he's done it before. He's going to do it again this year, where Londoners will come together and eat for free. And many people are saying, why are you spending £300,000 for free food, pool party? And what's your take on that?
Look, he did the party last year, and it cost £200,000, a bit more if I remember right, and now it's £300,000. The problem is, should we be putting on things to entertain Londoners? Yes. Should we be using taxpayers' money in this way? Probably not, particularly when we could use it on policing. He spent all this time saying we don't have enough money for policing, we don't have enough money for lots of things, so why is he spending our money in this frivolous way? Particularly as there is an alternative. If I was the mayor, I'm fairly sure I could raise £300,000 in sponsorship just to make that happen. He missed the boat with the fireworks. The New Year's Eve fireworks are expensive. Ken and Boris both had sponsors for that. Why didn't he get a sponsor? The point I'm trying to make here, poor financial control in City Hall really affects the poorest people. You do not help the poorest people by talking a good game and then wasting their money. There's other things the money could be done with, could be used for.
He said he will bring in the community together. There'll be cohesion in the community. They will have a place of focal point, and then they'll be able to understand one another and perhaps reduce knife and gun crimes, and these are the ways you can bring the youth together. And so the money is being taken from their business rates anyway.
But listen, the money coming from business rates is irrelevant, because it just means you could have spent that money somewhere else. You could have spent it on our high streets, you could have spent it on our safety, you could have spent it on a number of other things. Bringing the community together is a great idea, but my first argument would be, well, okay, that's one community, I believe, in the east of London. There's communities all over London. Are they going to get £300,000 as well? Of course not. So that is not an argument. And if you want to do the event, and to be clear, the event will probably be a good event, but you should find sponsorship. You should find sponsorship to your event. You can't argue it's a community event when you can't do it for all communities.
50 to 60,000 people will be there, and so it's a good number, isn't it, for that part of the city?
I would say no. Look at the Notting Hill Carnival. Some years you get to 1 million people there. That's a good number.
So if you have just joined us, I've been speaking with Shuan Bailey, the London mayoral candidate of the Conservative Party. You can just pop in your question, and he will be too glad to answer you. And we want to see if you are a Labour member there and you feel yes, it's an occasion to ask some serious questions. Now let's talk about the leadership tours going on in the Conservative Party. I know I think they're about 10 now, and 2 have declared today, Boris Johnson and Said Javid. And so how will this affect London by July 22nd when the new Prime Minister comes in?
I actually think it'll have a positive effect on London. I go back to the beginning. I think the wide slate of candidates we have and all the ideas they're coming up with are really good. I think the real competition is really good as well. Whoever wins will have been through a serious selection process, which is very good for the country and the party and probably the individual as well. If you take the difference between Boris and Sajid, it shows you just what a broad church we have and how wide the Conservative Party is. Often in the press we're depicted as a very narrow group of people, 2 very different individuals who both stand a chance of running the party. Really important as well. And the uplift, I think, for the country and London will be important. There's no denying that Brexit feels like a bit of an impasse at this point. We definitely need some new energy, some new ideas to force that through.
Fair enough.
And no matter who you are, Leave, Remain, you know, Londoner or from Scunthorpe or Land's End, you do know that we need to resolve Brexit. So any new energy in that space with some new ideas is definitely welcome.
Please quickly take us through, for those of our viewers, what's the process of finally electing a Conservative Prime Minister for July 22nd. We know about 10 of them. They said eventually they'll be reduced to 2. What else? We don't know. Please fill in the blanks.
That is the base thing. So everybody will declare, as Boris and Sajid did today, and then they have to have a certain amount of votes, a certain percentage to stay in. So 5% at this point, anybody without 5 is eliminated. Then 10%, and then anybody's eliminated. Then it goes to the MPs, and they'll vote it down to the last 2. And then it'll be brought to the party members. 150,000 plus, I believe, members who will then vote on which one they would like, and they'll become the leader of the party. And of course, the leader at the party at the time is also the Prime Minister. But just to be clear, somebody said to me on the bus, "Well, how comes you get to pick the leader of the country?"
But now it was just 150,000. They become.
But remember, 12 of our last 25 prime ministers have been selected in this manner, not elected. Because the way our democracy works is the leader of the party that is running. And just it's happened 12 times before. Very recently, Theresa May, Gordon Brown was the same as well. So just to reassure people, this is how it normally works out.
I believe people should know some of these ones, but it's only but you made it very clear now. I think it's very clear now. So we're expecting some good radical things to happen in London, because London is as far as I'm concerned, is the key city in the whole world. I was in New York the other day. Where are you from? London? Yeah, I want to go to London. I want to come over. So how are you going to make our relationship with other cities like New York, Paris? And I know you guys, the mayors, there's a conference. You meet, and so how are you going to secure London with this kind of sharing of information with other cities?
I think there's 2 things I say. Firstly, it's about the 17 million visitors we have annually. Keep making London a place worth visiting. I have a piece of my manifesto that talks about raising extra money for the arts in London to make sure that we can develop young artists, develop the employment opportunities art, but also make sure London continues to be the most interesting place in the world. So people keep coming here. So London is always on everybody's lips, as you've explained. The second part as well, yes, you can meet with mayors around the world, but I think you have to have a collective goal. So if you take transport, for instance, this morning I was at the Croydon tram. I would be asking other mayors around the world, are you also buying a tram? Could we put our buying schedule in line so that we can get our trams for cheaper, so we can get better technology, things like that. If you're talking about the environment, there's no point us cleaning the air if everybody else isn't. How can we align with those people to tell them what we've learned so they can tell us what they've learned and get on with it? I was speaking to someone from Barcelona recently, and they were talking about how they've managed to pedestrianise parts parts of Barcelona over the years. Is that something we could try in London? I don't think there's any city that London can copy for everything, but I think we can learn things from all different cities.
Like we had someone from New York to come and help us with transportation.
We did many moons ago. Yes, we did.
And there's this question: how do we? There are two major questions. One on housing. How do we lower the price? How do we build more houses in London? Or is this? I mean, the prices of houses are skyrocketing. In 1992, an average 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom in Tottenham, where I used to live, was about 50,000. Now it's about 500,000. How do we bring things down? Think about young graduates.
I think the issue with housing is all political parties for probably the last 40 years have failed on housing. And I think the market is broken. So there's a number of things I think you can do. Firstly, you need to have a mayor who actually provides housing. We were promised 80,000 houses a year. We haven't even...
I think, hold on. I think we have a caller. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, who's calling?
Yeah, good evening. This is Azu speaking, yeah?
Okay, are you calling from London?
Yeah, I'm calling from London, thank you.
Okay, would you like to ask a question from our guest?
Yeah, I would like to ask Mr. Bailey a question.
Go ahead,
very
sir.
Quick one.
Yeah.
What is his policy position or his argument on the issue of Brexit? Does he think that the conservative position on Brexit issue is able to give him the leverage to defeat Sadiq Khan and the Labour Party in London? Because, for example, what happened in Peterborough is a very big shocker with the fact that one of the key major disadvantage Conservative Party had in Peterborough was the rise of Brexit Party and the Brexit agenda, which the Conservative Party was unable to manage up to date. Does it think that he has an advantage with this Brexit agenda affecting his possibility of winning the Mayor of London election?
Thank you. I think the first thing I say, this election in London isn't about Brexit. The mayor has no power over Brexit. That's in Parliament. I think the fact that Mr. Khan has made it so much about Brexit shows you that he's trying to cover up the issues we have, the things he can actually deal with. There is no doubt, having said that, that Brexit is on everybody's mind. I think the big issue will be, has it been dealt with by October by the parties involved? That's the key thing, and I really want Parliament to deal with it, because we need to give business and particularly our European citizens and Londoners in general.
But the caller is asking, are you sufficiently scared by the result at Peterborough, where the Conservative Party came? Was it third or fourth?
I'm not scared of anything. Okay. If you're in politics, I would love to plan the time that the election is. Yeah. So you can't be scared of anything. You just have to deal the cards that you'll play with, the cards you're dealt. But in Peterborough is very different to London. Very different. I think London is we have a slightly broader debate. There's many more Remainers. I think what happened in Peterborough is if the Brexit Party didn't stand, the Conservative Party would have won. I think that's I think that's a fair assessment. And of course, in Peterborough, they had a Labour MP who'd had. I mean, she literally went to prison. And it was a very different environment. We don't have that environment down here. But for me, the big thing about Brexit is making sure we get the best.
But the Labour Party still won.
Yes,
where the candidates MP went to the prison.
That's because what happened was, I think a lot of people who in Peterborough who wanted to leave wanted to vote Conservative or the Brexit Party, so it split the vote. And then the Labour lady came through the middle. You know what I mean? We have a very different situation down here, and ultimately we'll be a year on. And this election is about people's safety. This is about, can you walk down the road and guarantee no one's going to throw acid on you and that your children won't be stabbed in the street? This is about, can you afford that place? One of the strangest things someone said to me is, since Brexit has come about, it's made housing more affordable in London. You know, that's the impact that Brexit's had on housing, for some people at least.
So what specific things should we be looking out for when it comes to housing? Because in that area, that's a specific area
I'd say three things. One, a mayor who delivers the numbers that he promised. We were promised 80,000 houses annually. We haven't been anywhere near that figure. It was a crazy thing to say.
Yeah.
Two, a mayor that's providing housing across the board. And that means from social housing, we have a desperate need for social housing, right up to housing that young professionals can afford. And three, the way we do that, the current mayor has a ban on brownfield sites. There's a type of land in London called strategic industrial sites.
Yeah.
That's most of what we call brownfield, where you could build in inner London. He has said there must be no net loss of strategic industrial land in London, which means we can't build on many sites in London. I'd removed that ban the morning I was elected, because we can't build on all of those sites, but we can build on many of them. And to give greater land supply means hopefully lower prices, and it certainly means greater delivery. And they're just the first three things you could do to just get things moving in London. We must get things moving. Currently, we're not delivering on numbers. Most of the housing being provided was actually given permission under Boris Johnson, and it's only now being built under Khan. He needs to speed up.
Yeah, this is also very important. What's your take on emission in London and congestion charge? I'm personally confused when it comes to emission. I know that some old cars are banned from the city of London or particular environment. What is the new law coming up? We understand that you have to go and check your number somewhere, your plate registration number. Please inform our viewers so that we can know exactly what is the current situation. What will you do about it?
So here's how it goes. In London, we have the congestion zone.
Yeah.
They've now put in a thing called the T-charge temporarily. Now they've put in the ULEZ. Now that's where the confusion is. They should not have done the T-charge. It just confused people. The central London, in the London ULEZ, that's ultra low emission zone, was actually a Conservative idea by Boris Johnson. The mayor brought it forward early, which was a bad idea because it's caught people out and confused them, and they haven't had time to change their cars. But what it means is if your car is not compliant, when you drive into that zone, you have to pay £12.50.
Wow.
You'll have to pay extra.
Where is this place now?
It's exactly the same zone as a
zone.
congestion zone.
Okay.
Right? The next thing coming, if I win, it won't happen, but I believe that Mayor Khan will bring in, is an extended ultra-low emission zone all the way out to the north and south circular. So it means if your car is not compliant then, even if you don't drive your car, it's sat in front of your house, you will have to pay the charge.
£12.50.
Yes.
Every day.
Yes. Every time you move your car. Yes.
And what do you do to make your car compliant?
You buy a new one.
And what is the age range of a car now? That
for diesels, I believe it's anything before 2016. I hesitate to say because I don't want to confuse people anymore. The point is this: we can improve London's air quality without charging Londoners that heavy money. I think the reason the mayor has done that is because, again, he has put TfL's finances in a very tough position. He needs to make some money. This is a way of making money. What I would do is make all of the bus fleet green, all of it, and help cabs change to greener cabs. You want to put in green barriers to help absorb some of the CO2 and the NOx in the air as well. All of these measures would give you the same improvement in air quality without charging Londoners excessive money.
When is this new chart coming on?
The ultra low emission zone is in.
I mean, I'm talking of the north-south circular.
That would be 2020.
2020.
Yeah,
so if you're going to buy a car now, what suggestion will you give? What should we be looking out for?
I hesitate to give people.
Okay, I'm just thinking.
Petrol, new petrol engine cars, and of course, what would be perfect if you could afford a hybrid or an electric car.
Yeah, hybrid was on my mind.
You're right. Another thing I would seek to do is make sure we have a proper charging network across London. We simply don't have enough electric charging, and I'd support local authorities to do much more of that.
Is there a way you can tell local government? I mean, as the mayor of London, a way you can tell the local government, come on, put on more electric charging places?
You can help them. To be clear, some councils are good and are doing their best, but more money could be provided to councils to help them do that.
Okay, we have very few minutes. Time is gone before we round up. And maybe you want to ask Shuan the last question for this program. We'll be too glad to to answer you. Thank you for the answer you gave the other caller. Now we have very few minutes more. I want you to look at the camera and tell Londoners what Mayor Shuan Bailey will do for them.
I think what we want to do in London is make London a positive place, to give our children a future, to make sure that London is safe. So firstly, we want to do crime. We want to eradicate crime in London. We want a London where it's criminals under pressure, not communities under pressure. The second is housing. We need to provide a broad slate of housing for people who are eligible for social housing. We need lots of social housing, but we also need market housing, and we absolutely need to do something about rent. Many young people in London rent, and we need to make sure we get rid of road landlords, we give longer tenancies, and we help keep the costs down. What we must not do is have rent controls, because that will shoot the cost up. Thirdly, we really do need to look at the economic future of London. The poorest communities in London need to make sure that we are giving them the best training and the best support to get into employment, because that helps everybody keep their family secure. It's also one of the best ways to reduce crime, because there'll be fewer poor people in London surviving with using food banks, etc. We need to really make sure we give people long-term ability to survive. Our environment is very important as well. That means opening up some of the green space so it can be enjoyed properly. It means making sure we use many more green barriers so that there's more greenage in London to absorb CO2 but also make the place look nicer. Also, we need to make sure we help people to move around using public transport, walking and cycling, because it is obviously far less damaging to the environment. These are just some of the things that we need to do in London. But the real thing in London, we need somebody who takes responsibility and doesn't play the blame game. Every time you hear somebody say it was the government's fault, it's somebody else's fault, that's them avoiding their responsibility. As mayor, of course, you'll always want more money, but you've got to do the best with the money you have and not blame people. I don't particularly care for the party labels. What I care for is the long-term comfort of people. So the words I'd always say to people is, people above politics every time. I'll work with anybody who has a good idea to do the best for London.
Just before we close, how will you handle possible terrorist attack in London if you are the mayor?
There's a few things.
What preparation?
There's a few things. Our security services are brilliant and are constantly working at keeping it safe. As a mayor, what you have to make sure you do is that you ask the Metropolitan Police, who already do this, to keep a very close relationship with the security services and keep you informed so that you can get all of your blue light services to know what to do when something happens. I also think a practice run is very useful for the services, so they can understand how they will respond and test their mechanisms. Unfortunately, in years gone by, they've had many opportunities to practice, but I do think that we should still keep those runs going. And to be clear, we could always ask the government for more money for policing.
Of course.
One of my plans is, I've written to the Home Secretary to ask for more money for the junior rank of police. The first level of police should be paid more to make joining the police force more attractive, because it's the police that keep us safe.
You've been watching the dialogue from Ben Television, and that's how far we can go today. Our guest has been the London mayoral candidate for the Conservative Party, Mr. Shuan Bailey, who is a member of the Greater London Assembly, and many you still be having him. We'll be having him here on Ben Television. Thank you very much, Mr.
My
Bailey.
pleasure, my absolute pleasure.
And that's how far we can go. God bless you.
Hi, my name is Latla Shabangu, the president of Miss Heritage Global. Miss Heritage Global is a beauty pageant that was established in 2012.
Miss Heritage Global is not just a beauty pageant. It's an opportunity. Think about this. What is heritage? Heritage is culture. What is culture? If you have received this video, you're probably very good friends or very good enemies of this word. Because culture is how we live. Culture is how we interact with each other. And of course, I have to say that other word. Culture is lifestyle. Now think about Miss Heritage Global. 50 beautiful women from around the world meeting in one place to spend a week displaying, sharing, and living culture. The opportunity is to create ambassadors out of these queens, create content out of their interactions and experiences with each other and with your brand. These experiences will connect with audiences through conversation that will give your brand visibility across all platforms. These experiences will connect with audiences through conversation. Think about these conversations for a second. Because culture and the interaction of different cultures is at the center of pop culture, the conversation will tap into existing world topics that will be sure to attract a social media response. The war, migration, terrorism, religion, the Me Too movement, cultural appropriation. This experience allows the contestants to have these conversations in a meaningful, authentic way where they can say how they really feel and get the followers, friends, and family rooting and supporting them by becoming part of the conversation. It's also an opportunity to inspire the world to take a moment and learn about a new culture and develop tolerance and understanding for one another. This is what is at the heart of the Miss Heritage brand. Unity in diversity. So what are they going to be doing in Ghana? Apart from exploring Ghana's super rich culture through site visits and multiple curated activities and experiences, Heritage Week features some events that will give prime visibility across all media and engagement points. The Polo event is the sexy fashion high-end event for socialites and influencers. Money raised from ticket sales will be donated to a charity in Ghana. The charity event is our CSI project. The contestants will spend a fun day with kids at a heritage site, learning about Ghanaian culture and having some local food and fun. The Ambassadors Night is a gold carpet black tie event hosted by the Ministry of Tourism and the Ministry of Trade and Industry Ghana. This is a business-to-business event with the ambassadors from contestants' countries in attendance. And of course, the Big Night, which is a colorful, vibrant exhibition of the cultures of the world through music, dance, fashion, and a guest list of A-list influencers in business and entertainment. With a combined social media following of over 1 million people from 50 countries around the world, Miss Heritage Global is set to be an annual content event that will engage, educate, inspire, trigger, and entertain. And your brand could be front and center.